Hello, super excited to be live today in the Safe Scrum chat room. And it's been a while. I've been anticipating to be live, but finally got the moment for us to have some chat today about what it takes to become a Scrum Master. We are going to be focusing on what it takes to be Scrum Master. We're also going to be focusing on what is happening within what's happening in the field, what's happening with a lot of people that are struggling to get into the role of a scrum master, and for some reason they are still kind of really finding it challenging to get there. We are going to do some question and answer as well. So I want to first of all give it back to all those who have been following me on the Safe Scrum chat room. If you're not yet a follower on the Safe Scrum chat room, I'm going to share the link on the chat so that you can join. But the reason I'm live today is because of you, right? So for your questions to talk about Scrum, to talk about what are some of the challenges. So I want to focus more on answering your questions rather than just giving a long talk. So feel free put your question. You have any question about Scrum, about Agile, about business agility? We want to talk about that today. All right, so let's get rolling for today. But before we get rolling, let me put your comments around. If you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on LinkedIn, I need to see your comment in and tell me also where you're joining us from. And let's get ahead and get started with our conversation without wasting much time. Okay, while you're doing that, hello, Pretty Bright. Thank you for joining. Just let me know where you're watching in from. Hello, Miss Jua. I see you coming in. Also, those on LinkedIn, comment. Let us know where you're watching us from so that we can give you a big shout. Okay, watching from YouTube. I see a lot of my YouTube friends in here. All right, come on. Feel free to put as many questions as possible. Joining from Atlanta, Georgia, Princess Ella. Feel free to put as many questions as possible. Today is for you, right? Feel free to ask any technical question. We are going to not just answer them, we are also going to analyze different questions to kind of give you a scenario of what the situation is about and how to target it. Labelle from Maryland, hello, thanks for joining in. North Carolina, Esa, thanks for joining in from North Carolina. I see quite a lot of people also joining from LinkedIn and also from Facebook. So let me know where you're watching from. Okay. Without wasting much time, let's get started. Now, the first thing I promise that I'm gonna start talking about today, it's talking about the entrance. Let's talk about the entrance, or let's talk about what is Scrum or the concept about the Scrum Master. Hello, Valerie. Thank you. See, joining from LinkedIn. Okay, let's just talk about Scrum. Let's start by there. Why I'm expecting your questions to come in. I just want to give more general introduction about Agile in general, about Scrum in general, about those who are looking forward to step into that field, and also some of the changes that have been in the market. We're also going to talk about some of the possible way we can break into the market without breaking any legal rules or any stuff. So we're also conscious about that. But also, before we move ahead, just a disclaimer. The advice I'm going to give you will not be like, okay, this is the only way to do stuff. It's just my opinion. My opinion might be different. Agile in general vary across different organizations, and Scrum it's so vast, and many people are implementing it in a different way. So I would not say that if I give a response to something, it's one of the ways, it's not the only way. But if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you directly that no, I'm not sure I know this, right? So feel free to ask your question. All right, perfect. And also feel free to share. I know a lot of people have been waiting for me to come live and they have so many questions that they want to ask. I'm going to make sure I answer that. So share if you're watching, like and drop a comment. It's going to be very helpful for us to be able to get more people join, get more notification in. I'll be here for the next 1 hour. So as many questions as you ask. And if you also want me to come live frequently, let me know and I'm going to make sure I do that. All right. My resume never gets selected. We're going to talk about that. Some of the reason why some resumes never get selected. How do you measure your team maturity? Those are also questions that are coming in. We're going to talk about that. So before we talk about that, let me take like a minute and give you a bit about what is happening in the industry right now. All right. So one thing you need to understand about Scrum and Agile. Scrum is just an entry point. It's an entry point into a leadership position. Scrum is an entry point into a leadership position, and Scrum it's one of the framework that can help us to implement agile project, which means that Scrum is just a framework. Say Scrum Master or Save is another framework. Less is another framework. So there are different framework that we can use in implementing an agile project. So an agile environment, which is Scrum is very popular because it's more easy to adopt for many companies and that's a very simple, straightforward way in which you can deliver projects. When we get a bit more complicated, we get into a safe environment, which is about doing Scrum in a more bigger way. So a lot of people feel like, oh, Scrum is different and safe is different. No, there's no big difference in Scrum and safe. The difference is just that safe, it's about doing it in a more bigger way. Okay. We also have Kanban. Kanban is also another approach in implementing an agile project, and it can be used alongside with Save, with Scrum. Kanban is just a way of visualizing stuff. We're also going to talk about that, or we're also going to answer some questions about that as well. And I would say if I need to describe Scrum to someone that's there, it's about getting our customer engaged in all the process and making sure that the process can enable us to identify problems very early in the product development phase and to build them. All right. So another way which I like to describe Scrum is more like ladies, and I like to use ladies a lot because I love the way ladies spend in makeup and salon and other stuff. It's like you're a lady, you go to your hairdresser, you go to the salon and say, okay, maybe you want dread on your head, and they say, okay, um, they describe what you want, right? And you sit in front of the mirror and you're like, oh, I was thinking it's gonna come out like this, but I changed my mind. Can you instead make it a bit longer? Can you make it? And you are having a conversation and you can change your mind as many times as possible. And because your hairdresser really want to please you, they are going to redo it to fit your need, right? So at the end of the day, what happened? You go out happy. Just imagine if you go to your hairdresser, you tell them what they want, you never get to see the mirror until when they are done. It's like, you know what? You need to undo this stuff. I can go out with this stuff, right? So ladies can identify with me. So Scrum is a flexible way where we can all see what's going on. And that's why the three pillars of Scrum talk about inspect, adapt, and transparency. So we can see it, we can adapt it, and everyone can see what is going on. Okay, perfect. So let me take some of the questions that are coming in. And based on the questions, I'm going to go a bit deeper on some of it and kind of get more deeper. Now, if I look at my board and try to pick out the questions that are coming up, the first question that is coming up from Miss J. Is a how to answer okay, an example of impediment and how to resolve it. Give an example of impediment and how to resolve it. Okay, thank you for that question. Now we'll talk about impediment. What is an impediment? An impediment means an obstacle. An impediment means something that is stopping you from going ahead, right? Now, let's talk about impediment based on our daily life. Maybe you were preparing to join this live session, and for some reason, your internet kind of mess up in the last minute, and you have to struggle about 5 minutes, maybe to get connected in another internet spot before you join. That's an impediment. So why? Because it stopped you from actually getting in the time you wanted to get in. So, an impediment is anything that can stop your team from going ahead. most of the common impediments you're going to see in a Scrum team are going to be on number one, dependency, which means that for us to be able to complete a story, we need to wait for another team to get done, or it can still be internal for, let's say, developer B to be able to complete their story. They need to wait for developer A that is working on the back end to complete their own story. And for some reason, developer A now take a sudden vacation, which means that developer B cannot complete their work during that sprint. So that's an impediment. And that's an impediment which you need to escalate immediately because it's on work and there's nothing you can do because developer A who was supposed to do the first part before you continue is on vacation. So you can escalate that impediment. Now, another impediment which you can easily resolve without escalating can be the fact that you have one of your developer, they don't show up for daily stand-up, they don't show up for meetings. So when you kind of everyone give an update, maybe they come after 2 days and say, oh, look, I was working on this and it really I had this challenge, I could not complete this. And because of that, it's pulling the whole team backward. So that's an impediment. And how do you resolve that impediment? By creating space to talk with that developer, give them, not to talk up to them about the fact that they're coming late, they're not been there. One of, no, not the only, okay. The way to resolve impediments is to show the person concerned how their action is affecting the business value. Be it a leader, be it a manager, the only language we understand in the business fee is the business value. So if you come to me and say, oh, Francis, you were not there at the daily stand up yesterday, this is not good, the team member doesn't like it doesn't really make any sense to me. Right? Okay, sorry, I'm going to try to be there. But if you come to me and say, okay, Francis, you were not there yesterday, and because you were not there, this is going to affect our next release. And this is putting us in danger uh, um, with a business value of about 1 million that we might lose. Now it pays more attention to me because I understand the impact why I could not, just because I missed out that daily stand up, this is the impact. So some team members never get to understand agile until you start telling them the value. So which is the reason why you, the scrum master, you need to be a non-technical person so that you can be able to get them understand stuff in the non-technical way. A technical person will just say, oh no, this is going to take me about maybe 2 minutes to resolve. I can do this the last day. But what if something happened? They're not seeing the business value, how the business value will be impacted. All right. So that was a question about from Miss J. Then the next question came from Pretty Bright. And Pretty Bright, actually, let me show the question. Pretty Bright says, how do you calculate your team velocity? Okay. Now, Pretty Bright, when we talk about velocity, it simply means how much work can your team take, right? Velocity, how much work can your team take? Let's talk about you driving a car. They say the car drive, let's say, 60 miles per hour. That is how fast that car can go. Maybe if you're driving a truck, we say the truck can go 40 hours. That's how long that team can go. So when we talk about velocity, we're talking about how much work your team can take. And how much work your team can take is related to the capacity of your team. When we talk about team capacity, it's the number of people that are available and their availability. And normally, if you go to the report section of your Jira board or your ADO board or your Rally board, you'll be able to see the average velocity. How much work has your team been able to complete within the last 3 months, last 6 iterations? That is how we're able to get the average velocity. But if your team is a new team, which means that they don't yet have any velocity, the way you come about estimating your team velocity, by default, in most of the environment, they consider that each story point is good enough for a team member to take during a sprint. So if you have, let's say, 5 developers and all of them are fully available, which means that they are not dividing their time, they are not taking vacation, then it's going to be 5 times 8. Their velocity, their full velocity is going to be 40. But we should, as a scrum master, you should understand that you cannot tax full capacity. It's not advisable, not that you cannot. It's not advisable to tax full capacity so that we can leave out some time for unforeseen. So you can factor in about 20%, 30% based on what your company recommend as time to handle technical debt, time to handle bugs if they come up. So you can end up, let's say, with about a true velocity of about let's say 34 for five developers. All right, perfect. So, does every team compose both developer and operation? Okay, that's a good question by Princess Ella. Now, not everything composed of both developer and operation. Anyway, a true agile team should not include the operation side. The operation side collaborate with an agile team or with a scrum team, but a scrum team doesn't have the operation component in it, right? DevOps, which is now the ability to collaborate between operation and the development team, is what link both together. So a scrum team should compose of a product owner, developers, and then a scrum master. Now, when we say developers, it's a generic word, but you need to know the kind of developers that are part of your team. Let's say that your team is working on data migration. Now you should be having data engineers and maybe DevOps engineers in your team, right? And also you also have front end and back end developers, right? So if you ask the question, what was your team composition? It's not just about, oh, there was a scrum master, there were a developer. You can say, oh, you had front end and back end developers. The same way, which might be a conversation we're having another day, is that even with the teams, you need the different teams. The team that might be working on the mobile app, team that may be working on portals, the team that may be working the API teams, right? There are teams that may be working on the front end user experience and all the like. There might be a support team that's just maybe handling ticket as long as they're coming in. So there are different type of team, which is when your case study is very important. Your case study helps you to understand the environment you're working in. It helps you to understand if your team was more of a user experience team or your team was more of an API team. And this is also going to be determined by the phase of the project of the product, the face of the product you're building. If your product is facing out already, which means that all the ecosystem and all the infrastructure has been set in place, you might work with more of a front end team, UI, UX, trying to customize user experience. But if you're kind of at the early phase of your project and you're building, let's say, an application, much of the work are going to be more of the API team, the back end team. I hope that's not confusing though, but I'm answering to the best of my knowledge. Okay. Now, the next question is from LinkedIn, and I guess this question it's from all right, Josie. Okay, Josie. All right, and Josie says that hello dog is joining from SF. I don't know. How can you encourage team to increase velocity and stay motivated in tight deadline project? Wow, that's a very important question. All right, how can you encourage your team to increase velocity and stay motivated in tight deadline project? This is what I'll personally do. There are many ways to do it, but this is what I do. Your we call it the magical tool of every Scrum Master is your emotional intelligence or is your relationship ability. How well you can relate with your team is the magic tool you have as a Scrum Master. Now, I have a team who's the team is team of four developer, which averagely they should be having a velocity of about 28 or 30 in a sprint. But they are overperforming. They're delivering about 38 and 40 and above every sprint. Now, what is the secret? In this case, if you have a team like this, they can crush the line. So you don't only motivate your team to increase their velocity when they are deadline. It's something you need to build. It's a relationship that you need to build with your team as you get into the team. How do you build this relationship? You don't need any special technique, right? Now, immediately you get into the team, one of the first thing you want to do is to have one-on-one. One of the things you need to do is to know your team personally. For instance, have a habit of always going in about 5 minutes before. And some people always kind of lock in earlier. When they lock in, it's like, hey, um, uh, Benedict, how are you doing? Okay, I'm doing okay. What happened during the weekend? Oh, I had a very long trip. I drove to this, and then the next day I can ask the follow-up question, and that's how we start building relationship. So if what come up and you say, "Hey, Benedict, please, I need a favor from you. Can you take an extra story compared to? I know it's gonna be tight." Because of the relationship you're built with them, they say, "Okay, that's fine." But if it's all about work, 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 they wouldn't be willing to do it. So the way is to be the friend. The way is to understand them. The way is to share in time where they're going through difficulties, and also to encourage them. If you can do that, which is something you build, it's not something that can just happen immediately, right? It's something you build over time. If you can do that, they are going to stay motivated because of you. I was working in a team, and the PO, when they started restructuring and taking some of the team members to different teams, the PO said, "No, I can't continue working in this company. The only reason I was staying was because of this team." Why? Because they have been a really good relationship within the team that people could just go extra miles. All right. So, I hope I did answer your question. So there's no one answer to that. A minute to that. Now, Boss said, what is technical debt? All right. Technical debt simply means that we are fixing something that we should have done, right? We're fixing something that we should have done and we did not do it correctly. The couple of ways that technical debt may accrue in a team. People are burn out. Like a question we just answered, there's a tight deadline. We want to push everyone. Now, because they are rushing, the code qualities are poor. So when you get to the user environment, what happened? When they run maybe the UTA testing, and also most of the links might be broken, they have to send it back to the team. Okay, look, team, this was expected to work this way, but when you click here, it's not working. So we need to redo it. So because we did not do it right, it's coming back to us. It's called technical debt. All right. So hope that was straightforward. So technical debt is really, really, really straightforward. Okay, someone say APIs. Okay, APIs. I call application programming interface. Right, the back end team work on APIs. Now, let's understand APIs from a non-technical perspective. Let's say you go to a restaurant, a quick fast food restaurant, right? You place your order. When you place your order, what happened? There's something that's happening in the back in the kitchen that you cannot see. They try to mix a couple of ingredients and blah blah blah, and then they bring you something that is called maybe a cheeseburger or whatsoever, but you're not too sure what happened there. So APIs are those who configure. They try to say, okay, if we put, let's say, a teaspoon of salt and this half spoon of spices, and they do this, then you are going to have this kind of output. So APIs are back end developers. They try to configure how they want the system to operate, right? So they're building application, they're programming. It's like programming. They're programming the interface. How should it react to one another? For instance, if you log in into a system, this is what you should see. That is all configured on what you should see. Now, when they configure that, what happened? The people that bring the food to you are not the people preparing it, the server, right? Now the front end developer are the server. Now when they pick that, they know that okay, this go here, this go here. They want to present to you in the way that's gonna be appealing. So the front end developer now go and now understand the code that has been built because they understand what the back end developer has been done, and they translate it in a way that we, the user, or can easily see it and understand it. Okay, perfect. The next question, I've not even gone to talking about some of the stuff. Okay, I'm gonna create some time and talk about resumes and case studies at the end of the session. But let's deal with these questions first. The next question says, "Does your team also work on functional requirement? Please explain." Okay, what are functional requirements? All right, I spoke about APIs, right? And APIs are what we call more features or more capabilities. Let's talk about many people are watching from YouTube. Hello, all my YouTube fans. If you're watching from YouTube, just drop a comment in there. Those are also watching from Facebook, drop a comment, and those are watching from LinkedIn. Now, you will understand that LinkedIn has added so much. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, they're adding a lot of functionality, new functions. So that's what it means. It means your team, are they adding new function or are they maybe just refactoring? Refactoring simply means fixing what is already there. Are they building new function? Let's say that for those who are working in a bank as Scrum Master, your team is trying to, let's say, add on a function that can enable you to communicate with your banking app through Alexa. Like we say, hey Alexa, can you log in into my phone and check how much I got into this? That's a new functionality. So those are functional requirements. Okay. Now, non-functional requirements simply means that uh, these requirements are definitely not required for are definitely not adding new features, but they may be just enforcing, like I might say, quality QA, right? It's they're trying to build in the quality. It's not adding to the function, but it's just improving the way they behave. It can behave. All right. Hello, Sandra, working from Maryland. Hey, Sandra, how are you doing? And another question came in now from Miss J. Can you give an example of the different type of Scrum team? For example, I just learned about technical Scrum team. Okay, so technical Scrum team simply means they're working on technical issues. What technical issues are they working on, right? There's a support team. There's maybe a product team. So the way they call them, there's a mobile team, there's a web team, there's a portal team. The way they're going to car is going to be the kind of stuff we just describe, the kind of aspect they're working on. So the question about a technical Scrum team is like, what are the technical issues they are working on, right? What technical issues are they working on? So it can vary based on the environment. Hello, Emmanuel, watching from the UK. La Bella. I'm loving this. Please come live more. Okay, gonna try to come live more, and I'll try to before the end of today. I'm gonna announce when I'm gonna come live next, probably on Monday, and also I'm gonna announce probably before the end of this session. All right, I see Akindel joining from Dallas, Texas. Okay, we're in Dallas. Welcome to Dallas. All right, there's another question in here, and it says that what is DOD? What is DOD different from acceptance criteria? Okay, DOD means definition of done. Acceptance criteria is part of DOD, right? So definition of done include acceptance criteria. In most of the cases, a lot of people feel like DOD only applies to a story. No, DOD is a process, which means that before we consider that this story is done, what processes are they going to go through? The process in most of the Scrum bot, if you've seen them, they're like ready to do, in progress, in the QA, in review, ready for acceptance. We go and we make sure that all the acceptance criteria are done, then done. So acceptance criteria in most of the cases is what the PO validate to make sure that everything has been completed. But in most cases, the tester have been able to test and also ensure that all the code are run correctly. So all of that process is definition of done. Acceptance criteria is just one aspect that comprise or that's part of the definition of done. Right. So if I answer your question and you need a follow up question, just drop the follow up questions. Uh, all right. I think we answered this question. Impediment and technical depth. Impediment is just anything that can hold your team back. Okay. Let me give you a couple of impediments. You may have a team and you don't have a tester as part of your team. Not all Scrum team are going to have testers, right? You may have a team, you don't have a tester as part of your team. For instance, if let's say that I'm working on building an app that could, I'm working on building an app and we're building the pilot phase of the app or the MVP version of the app. It's not necessary that a tester may be part of uh, 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 our team. We might not need a tester because we can easily just do recipe error and different developer can just double check and make sure it's working. Now, in this case, when the product is ready to go live, now they swim it or they deploy it into the QA environment so that that's the period where they invest now in quality testing before it goes live. But if we're just building a pilot project just to estimate an MVP, in most of the cases, you're not going to have a tester as part of the team. All right. Now, why did I bring this up? I bring this up because it can be an impediment. Let's say that you get to another part of the app you're building, and when you started, you foresee that or you foresaw that you would not need a tester, and you got to a certain point, and it's very important that you need to validate some security or some quality issue. Now, in that case, that aspect of the product that you're building, the aspect of the story must be deployed or must be sent to the QA environment for validation, sent back to you before you continue building. If it's sent to the QA environment, QA was not really foreseeing that impediment is that ticket or that story. We'll talk about ticket stories and issues, they're the same thing. They were not foreseeing that this is going to come because you're not normally part of their workload. And it comes and they say, oh, Sandra, we had already about 19 tickets on our list. So it's not possible that we are going to run a test on your story and send back to you before the end of the spring. Now, that's an impediment, right? Now, when we say technical debt, let's say that you kind of say, oh, this is too long. I'm just going to run it through. I don't care about the testing. Then you kind of just move that to ready for acceptance. And because you did not take time to check on the quality of the code, which was required, you move it to done. And because we test it, it's gonna pass the testing. Now, technical debt doesn't mean that it did not pass the testing. It passed the testing. So it passed the testing. Now it goes to the environment and then it starts malfunctioning. Why will it malfunction in the environment when it has already gone through the test and everything is validated? Now, in the environment, there are a lot of vulnerability, there are a lot of bugs, there are a lot of virus that can affect this. And that is why when we build, the reason why we do QA and testing is that we want to make sure that it can resist all of the common bugs and all of the common virus and attack in the market. You realize that in most of the cases, most accounts are being hacked and all of that. Why? Because they are, I'm gonna call them, there are a lot of cyber security issues that people are trying to pop into a system. So the build firewall, the testing and the QA and the other stuff is just trying to make sure that what we have done has been protected enough and we are sure that nothing is going to come through. All right. I hope that answered your question. See, watching from UK. Okay, let's see. Next question. Okay, seems to be a lot of question coming up. All right, Jean-Philippe says, does this mean technical debt is something you will have to deal with from time to time? Yes, you have to deal with from time to time. The only thing you have to ensure is that it should not grow uncontrollably. Now, if you work in a safe environment, one of the reasons they leave the last sprint or the last iteration of a safe environment to be the IP iteration, innovation planning iteration, is to make sure that you can look at some of the, you can um, enforce the quality. You can enforce the quality of the project, and you can also pre-plan for what is coming on during the PI planning, so that you leave enough time, because one of the reasons we have technical debt, we're not leaving enough time. People are only seeing things just at the last minute. Just imagine, if to have two scenarios, right? One of the scenario, you saw what you were working on already during the backlog refinement last week. We had a chat about it, and now during the planning, okay, if you have, you already, your mind is already configured to work on it, you already get prepared, versus you saw it when, at just at that moment, and you did not even have enough questions. Psychologically, you probably would really have some challenges trying to work out, trying to work out. Let me put it. Psychologically, you have some challenges. And because you're having some challenges now, you might get burnout. Because you get burnout, you just do whatever you can do just to make sure it's done. After all, if you come back as a technical that you're going to work on. All right. So we can avoid it by making sure we plan on time, by making sure we are breaking our stories into smaller pieces so that if there's any challenge, we can easily pick it up. Okay. Can you please give us some important points you have in your team working agreement? All right. So a team working agreement simply means that if you get into a company, okay, that company already have quite a lot put in place, which means that they have a definition of ready, they have definition of done. So definition of ready and definition of done is not something that's unique to a team. It's something that cut across the entire organization. But what happened if you are the first person, right? What happened if you are the first person working as a Scrum Master? I do also mentor those who are already at in the work. So most of them got in and they're the first Scrum Master. They need to put all of this in place, which is one of the reasons you might need to work with someone that's in there. Now, you need to do a working agreement. So, a working agreement is an open session with your team where you, as the agile coach, because at that point you're acting as the agile coach, you understand the agile processes. You want to look at, okay, are we going to have our daily stand up at this period? Your agreement is going to be you agree and define the frequency of all your events if they're not already there. If they're already there, you don't need to go start doing all of that again. You simply want to deal on the norms that are going to help your team do better, which is okay, I'm going to respect everyone's opinion, even if it goes contrary to my opinion. I'm going to make sure that I participate in all the meetings. I'm going to make sure that if I'm not coming to a meeting, I'll communicate with the PO. It's a shared agreement between the team. So you can have working agreement in terms of conflict. This is how we plan to do it. And you can also have the working agreement that go as well as defining the definition of done. So it's customized based on what your team needs. Right. If you already get into an organization which is well structured, your working agreement is just going to be something that help your team to do much better and to be more accountable to each other. All right. So hello, Dr. Kinsey. Greetings, sir. All right. So, Princess Ella asked another question. Tell me about a time when you receive feedback about your performance and you disagree with the feedback. How did you handle the situation? All right. It's a technical question. Remember, not all questions are meant for you to give a direct answer. Some of them, you just analyze them. This is the way I'm going to react to this question. It's kind of a tricky question because receiving feedback or implementing feedback are really, really, really challenging, right? But in most of the cases, I would not say I would disagree to a feedback, because even if they not it's not right, it's going to help me to understand how the person giving the feedback perceive it. Right. So if it's something which I don't really agree with it, the first thing is that I'm going to thank the person who gave the feedback, and I'm going to now help the person understand why some of the processes are that way. I'm going to give you a clear example now. If you have not had a practical experience on that, don't try to say, oh, I had this one time and this is how I did it. No, just say, unfortunately, I have not come across this. But if I've come across this is what I would do. In that case, you're giving a theoretical answer. Now, I want to give you a practical answer because I've had that situation. All right, I was running a retrospective, and one of the senior developer, although we don't give teams, we don't give names when we work in the team. So, oh, Francis, we don't use Mirobot. Mirobot is not meant to run retrospective. You need to use something like Easy Retro or something else, right? That's a feedback they're giving me. But I know that that's not right, right? We can still run retro on Mirobot. It's just that Mirobot was the first time they've seen it. It was a bit too complicated for them. So what I said, oh, wow, thank you very much, John. That's a really good stuff. But if you look at a Mirobot, it has a section like this. I know sometimes it might be a bit complicated, but can we just use this for today? And next session, we try to see how we can introduce the easy retro bot. Now, okay, that's fine. Now, I could have well just said, no, that's not right. We can also use the mirror bot and go ahead. Now, it's a feedback for me, but the way I react to it, it's really, really going to matter on how we progress as a team. Yeah. So sometimes I just do that. Oh yeah, I think the first time myself I used it, I thought it wasn't really used at Metro, but I found out that it has some really good cool component in it, which I'm gonna just show you in a couple of moments. Can we just use this today, and in the next session we'll try to figure out what's going on, just to make sure that we pull ahead, right? So that is a case. In most of the cases, it's whether good or bad feedback. You don't want to disagree with it. It's the personal opinion. One of the value we have as Scrum Master is to respect people's opinion. You need to separate people and their opinion. Sometimes it might be hard, and that is why a Scrum Master doesn't really have need to have so much on their plate. They deal with a lot of mental power, and they need quite some space to think. All right. So hope that answered your question. All right. Can you do a live video on Jira? All right. I'm gonna ask my team if I can do that on Jira. I'm gonna be doing a Jira tutorial for my team on Monday. So I will talk with them and ask if I can stream that live. If they want me to stream that live, I'm gonna stream that live. Okay, perfect. Yes, I'll try to do that. Even if I don't do that, I'll do. I can do a private section on a video and I stream that. Hopefully, I'm gonna have time to do that. Mr. Barori say, what's the best approach to use for agile transformation to leadership? Okay, if I understand your question right, is how do you coach leadership on agile, or how do you help a leadership of an organization understand agile? It's very, very tricky, and it's the biggest reason why agile is not working for many companies. Trust me. Many companies are implementing agile, but the leaders know almost nothing about why they should not be coming to retrospective of a team, why they should not be present in any daily stand up and try to monitor back to back what the Scrum Master is doing, why they should not be interrupting in meetings. The first thing is that it brings a lot of tension, and then the relaxed environment doesn't exist. No matter how jovial your manager or whosoever may be, there is still that notion that because he's just signing your paycheck, there's a limit to what you can say when they're there. So there's a course in a safe environment, there's a course called Leading Agile. So the first thing to do, also one thing is that the leaders themselves are not even creating enough space to have a dialogue with the Scrum Master and understand exactly what you could do. So, what you can do in order to help your leaders understand exactly what you do, understand agile transformation, first thing you can do is that you can be able to hold more or less support meetings. This doesn't really exist. Um, if you are like the lead scrum master in your organization, you can introduce the agile community of practice or the scrum community of practice, or you can bring leaders and you share results and you share some practices. But if you're not, you might be able to link up with the agile coach in your organization to look at how to implement that. That's the only way you can help them understand some of these practices. Now, not the only way, sorry, not the only way. That's one way you can enable them. Now, another way you can do that is to ask your manager if they are willing and open. You could be able to have a, let's say, a 15-minute, 20-minute session with them at the end of every sprint to explain to them what result you have based on the report that you're having from your team. How does it mean and how he can actually support to help the team move ahead. All right. And okay, the next question is also from Kinsey. How do you work with PO who isn't very knowledgeable about the product? That's a difficult one. They're gonna push all work to you, so you you need to help them to understand their job. So, and it's also very tricky. Remember, most PO, most managers, they don't like to be advised or they don't like to take an advice, right? They just so it's kind of really difficult. So, the way I collaborate with my PO was very knowledgeable, but the way I collaborated with my PO is we have a 15-minute catch up session in a week. Like, oh, we just talk. Is the backlog okay? Is everything okay? And that really built a very good relationship with my PO. And sometimes if I'm not able to catch up with meetings on time because of some stuff, I can say, hey, can you just help me figure out? Oh, no worries, we're good. The same thing. So it's just about building a good relationship with them so that they don't feel like you're teaching them a lot of and which is one thing you would need to avoid using when you're interviewing, like, oh, I will coach the PO, I will coach the management. They don't like the word coach. I'm gonna collaborate with them. I will have a session with them, I will have a conversation with them, I will have a discussion with them. So those are some of the stuff which you discuss. All right. And on job application, is it advisable to go in for a job title says agile coach or agile coach scrum master? Yes, you can go in for that. I've had students that get straight job as agile coach, that get straight job as vice president of scrum in big banks. What makes you to go in for such position is your knowledge. You need to know exactly if you're capable or not. Now, the biggest problem a lot of people are having, why many people are having rejection, is that you're not having someone validate you, actually run and see your capabilities. The people in my team, I actually run a session with them. I say, look, you can apply for an agile coach position with what you know. Go in for an agile coach position. Agile coach simply means that you know already what to do as a scrum master. You can guide other people, replicate the same thing. So agile coaching is not going to be something really different from scrum. It's just that it requires you to have more advanced skills on how to deal with leadership, how to help leadership understand agile practices. That's most cases the agile coach interviews are even more easier than the scrum master interview. Trust me. But you need to know what to do. They're also technical though. All right. So the next question says, is it fair to say that as a scrum master, there will come a time you will be a coach? You're a coach all the time. As a scrum master, you need a coach. Yes, it's fair. You're coaching. Now, coaching is not about sitting someone down and say, you know what, sit down, let me coach you. No. Coach, coaching is a practice. The way you do stuff, the way you talk to your people, you're coaching them. So I can come and my team is spending so much time on the daily stand up because they're having so much argument. I can say, all right, team, is it fair enough if we can just keep our discussion within 1 minute and anything that is above 1 minute, we take it to a parking lot. This is because we just want to give everyone a fair chance to finish on time so that we leave the long stuff only for people that are concerned. Is it fair enough for everyone? That's coaching, right? So coaching is an ongoing process. It's not something that happens instantaneously. And wouldn't that therefore make you somewhat an agile coach? Yeah. As a Scrum Master, you're an agile coach. Now, it's just a technical difference they use in such a way that when we talk about agile coaching, we want to keep it a separate one because it's just about differentiating someone that's a bit advanced, right? A bit advanced, but you're a coach to your team. An agile coach is a coach to the organization. So you being an agile coach is not just that you know how to coach, it's that you can coach multiple teams. You are mature enough. So coaching is more about your maturity ability because you're gonna get people that are gonna get to your nerve. And if you're someone that easily loses it, you're in trouble, right? So that's the key point there. Okay, perfect. I think those were most of the questions that came in, and I have about couple of 10 minutes to go. All right, in this last 10 minutes, if you have your questions, just drop them in. I'm going to take a bit of time. I want to talk about resume and I talk about case study, how you should be able to optimize them. Resume, case study, LinkedIn dice. Those are some of the key tools that you should be focusing on as the Scrum Master, right? As an aspiring Scrum Master. All right. Okay. Let me take this last question before I go. When will you discuss the things that were placed in the parking lot? Immediately after the daily Scrum. So you immediately, if every team member is concerned, they stay back. If it was just about one person, the other people can leave. Then you stay back and sort that out with the person. In some of the cases, you, the Scrum Master, you don't even need to remain at the parking lot. Maybe it was just something two developers need to clarify themselves. You just give them space and say, "Oh, can you talk with this person?" So you don't really have to be there during the parking lot, right? So let's see. I wanted to take some time and talk about your resume. And someone made mention at the beginning of the session that, oh, I put my resume out and I don't get called. This is a couple of reasons why you might put your resume and not get called. Number one is that your resume is not professional enough. You need to remember sometimes when I go through some resumes, they don't even when we talk about alignment, just having a very clean alignment is missing. And you're going into an environment where they need you to really be organized. So one of the things you want to make sure your resume is clean, professional, have white space. Now, the second problem I've seen with resume is that I see, let's say, job summary or key qualification, and it's about half a page. You can have that way. No one has the time. You're giving a summary. Remember, the standard of a resume is recommended to be 2 pages, right? Which is different from a CV, which is used in an academic environment. A CV can be as long as 4 pages because they want to see all credentials. But a resume is just a document to introduce you that highlight some of your strength to the recruiter or the hiring manager and introduce a space where they can be able to hire you, right? So in this case, what is happening is that is two, if I take up your resume, when a recruiter take up your resume, what is happening? The recruiter have a maximum of 30 seconds to decide if they want to move on with your resume or not. So if within the first glance of a page they don't see what they're looking for, okay, they're not gonna stay. And you also want to remember that Scrum it's a certification base. Some people go and put their certification right at the bottom. And man, the recruiter is looking for someone that has a safe certification. And within first page, they don't see that. They move on to the next person. Right. So those are some of the challenges. Now, some of the challenges, which is also very rare, is that you might have everything right on your resume. This is a high. Then at the bottom, you put that okay, you have a degree in, you have a master degree in nursing, you have a bachelor degree in nursing. Okay, I'm not really being biased, but that in most of the cases, it's like okay, if you spend so much time doing nursing, why are you not practicing nursing? Why are you really switching career? Scrum is a leadership stuff. So, what I advise most of the people to kind of play around with that, you probably don't just want to put nursing. You want to put maybe how do we call how do we how what is another way to call a nurse that is not a nurse? Um, Hospitality professional. So in that case, you can kind of tweak around just something, right? I didn't just like okay. Remember, I said the advice I'm gonna give you is not professional, so it's just from my own point of view. So because I look at that resume nursing, it doesn't work. If you look at most of the Scrum job, they say, okay, have we're looking for someone with a bachelor in computer sciences. It doesn't mean it has to be computer sciences, but it needs to be something which you can pick out some leadership aspect from it. That's kind of really my take. Now, the second phase is also that this another point on resume is also the fact that we put in somehow just like small LLC, they don't have a website, they're nowhere to be found on the internet. And then you say you work as a scrum master, and then they're looking at that and they say, no, there's no way that this organization can host a scrum master. Those are just some common challenge. There's many other stuff that are you can check. If you go to my website, agile.francisimbunya.com, you should be able to download a template. It's not for free though. I think it's about 19 bucks or so on resume. It comes with a template and a video that explains how you should structure your resume. Now, if your resume is well structured and for some reason you are not still getting interviews, some most often is the approach you're using in applying. Most people kind of apply like weekends, the busy applying. There's no need putting your application during the weekend. It just get buried down there. Recruiters get a lot of emails. You need to apply early in the morning or somewhere around midday. Don't waste your time applying in the evenings. In the evenings, there's so many people like you also putting in those applications. Putting your applications early in the morning during the day where the recruiters are active, they can see them. Now, another way for you to also easily get noticed, which is by far my most favorite way, is to be active on LinkedIn. If you're professional, create content on LinkedIn. There's so many recruiters on LinkedIn um, that are outsourcing candidates from LinkedIn based on their interaction. Get LinkedIn Premium. LinkedIn Premium is going to cost you less than 30 bucks a month. And with LinkedIn Premium, you can write to recruiter directly. Recruiter can easily find you because you are using the marketing tool of LinkedIn. So LinkedIn promote you to recruiter and you can easily land a job or you can easily land an interview. All right. So those are some of the tips on resume. Now, getting on some of the tips on case study. When we talk about case study, it's also a very big weak point for so many people. For instance, they can say, "Oh, you work as a scrum master for this team. Can you tell me about your product? Can you tell me how many team members you have? Was your team a product team? Was it an API team?" Those are stuff that you need to take more deeper understanding about. If I work as a scrum master team, if I work with a scrum master team based on the product I'm saying that I work on, is it going to be a mobile team? Is it going to be a web team? Is it going to be a support team? You should be able to understand all of that. If you can master your resume, you understand your case study, then tell me about yourself. It's not really going to be a big deal. Now, when you master all of this, what happens is that when it comes to tell me about yourself, you focus more on what we say. You focus on having a conversation because you understand what you're saying. And your biggest competitive advantage while interviewing is your confidence level. It's not even how well you answer questions, it's about your confidence level. All right. I think my time box And as Scrum Master, we need to respect time box, right? So 1 hour. And I want to thank everyone that kind of follow watch. If you interested in our coaching services, you can always reach out to me. Um, I'm gonna share with you how you can get there. You can drop a comment in there. I'm interested. Can you share me more information? Or better still, you can send me a private message on WhatsApp channel on the. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just my name. It's very simple, Francis Mbunya. You can find me on LinkedIn, send me a private message. Oh, I'm interested in your mentorship, even for those who are working. Now, for those who are working, it's even way difficult. Right. Some environment are very toxic, and you need to understand how to navigate around it. But also, now this is one thing for those who are planning to come over for coaching or are planning to come coaching with us. When many people come, they say, "Oh, how are you going to guarantee that? How many times are you going to sit with me?" and all of that. I don't take any of those into consideration. Now, I can sit with you for 30 minutes, and that's all you needed to get a job. So when I see it, my goal is not how many times I'm sitting with you. My goal is to work with you on a strategy that's going to help you get a job. Do you want to sit 50 times and nothing happen, or do you want a clear strategy that can help you get a job? That's what you need. You need how to get a job. You don't need how many times. So if you're interested in like, oh, I want somewhere that I can go ask question, I can go when I'm stuck, I come back. No, we don't focus on people that are stuck. We focus on helping you doing the right thing. And unless you know what you need to do, don't go and start interviewing. So we try as much as possible not to babysit people, but try as much as possible to push them on what they need to do. Okay, thank you very much. I think this was time well spent. I'm going to schedule the next live interview. It's going to be on a Monday or a Tuesday, but I'm going to keep this time on Saturday. Every Saturday at this time, I'm going to come live. So I will maintain the live broadcast every Saturday. And subsequently, we're going to be having some more guests coming in, and we're going to really have a conversation. If I did not answer your question for some reason, I did not see it, I'm going to go through the comments that are within this video, and then I will make sure I write them down. I'll respond to the comment, or I will make sure that I personally maybe give you a call. I'm not promising. I might, just because you participate and did not answer your question, I might give you a call to answer your question. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much. Keep their comments coming, and thank you very much for your support. When you see a post, just make a comment if it's important to you. The reason why we comment, we like, we share is because we want to help other people as well to benefit from the knowledge. So if this is benefiting you, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, don't forget to click the like button. And a lot of people have been sending me testimonial, or just by watching your YouTube I got a job, just by watching your YouTube I got this, just by. So I'm giving it back to you, and it's the reason why I'm coming back all the time to make sure that we have everything you need to move to the next level. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to see you in the next session.